Voting behavior can be analyzed in two separate categories: long-term predispositions and short-term factors. Long-term based on social characteristics, short-term related to circumstances. So long-term includes social characteristics, class, gender, religion, ethnic, racial, and cultural groups, region, other characteristics, ideology and values, party identification. Short-term influences include leaders, candidates, issues, strategic voting, and economic conditions. When we go into our first short term of social characteristics, someone's region, where they're located, what they identify as socially. So if I'm a Black young female in a neighborhood that's riddled with gun violence, I might be more drawn to choose a party that focuses on issues of eradicating these problems and helping people to get out of these issues. So class includes where you stand on the spectrum of income, education, and sometimes it can affect voting behavior. Of course, regarding income inequality, that's where it really affects voting behavior. Depending on what level you are at and how people's promises might affect you as an individual, that might cause you to vote as well too. But class voting has not been strong at the national voting level. Many Canadians think of themselves as a province, ethnic and culture identities, than in class forms and what they earn. Religion, depending on what you believe in and how you are socialized and your different denominations and how that's going to affect your everyday life, that may influence your vote. Someone who's religious may be less likely to vote for parties on the left who take a more secular approach at being an egalitarian society for all, rather than right side who focus on traditional rules such as abortion, same-sex, euthanasia. Ethnic and racial groups. Ethnic is focused on cultural minority groups with distinctive identities. So depending on who's representing in the candidates area, this might influence people's vote. This is why for the Liberal Party, people enjoy the fact that they had a lead among visible minorities and they had a passion for recent immigrants. Region, depending on where you're situated, that might influence your decision in government as to how that party who is elected in your area is going to represent those issues and change them in your region. So someone, like I said, I'm coming from a neighborhood of gun violence, I might be more inclined to choose the NDP party, knowing that that's going to directly impact my neighborhood as well, as their main platform is the egalitarian society. Gender as well too. Women are more likely to vote for left and liberal views. Men are more likely to vote for conservatives. I don't know if this has to do with women being the domestic carers, knowing that they have children and they have much more obligations that affect their decisions, whereas men are seen as moving up the social class linearly, being independent and not having to worry, and being much more economically stable and financially than women. Age also determines who votes for what. Younger people are more or less likely to vote for NDP platform and Green platform. People who are older tend to stick to conservatives and go with what they've been voting for. So sometimes different promises that parties have will appeal to younger groups. Other characteristics include voters in rural areas. Depending on where you're situated again with your region, that will influence your vote. Ideology and values influence people's votes as well too. How they view themselves as individuals, what they believe in, what their morals and their principles in, and how a certain party sides with that has a big implication as to who they vote for. Party identification also influences people's vote, and this just simply describes how a person feels drawn to a party and how long they felt drawn to that party. And that could be a part of their political socialization. So even if they are drawn to a party that does certain things that they don't agree with, because they've been drawn to that party for almost their whole life, and that has influenced their decisions and their identity, they might still vote for that party. Only if there are deviations from voting for one's party will they only shift to vote for another party, which is temporary.